On imom.com, we share ideas, insight, and inspiration. We do all that here too by sharing the best kind of stories, mom stories. We're all at different ages and stages, but one thing we have in common is that we're striving, and sometimes struggling, to love our children well. It's the iMom Podcast. Welcome to this week's episode of the iMom Podcast. Chloe, Susan, Megan, and me. I'm Abby. We're here once again to talk about some of the, well, in this case, about marriage and dividing and conquering all the things around the house with your husband. So, Susan, you have today's story.
Yeah, it's an easy story. If this is just something we happened on, I think we decided this early because when I married Mark, he already owned a home. So I was moving in. But we were both very busy. He was an attorney and I was in corporate lending. And so we just said, okay, like who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to do what? And we just decided, okay, I'll take care of everything on the inside. That included the bills, the cleaning, and again, we were both working. So we hired a cleaning lady. And he was going to handle the outside. And fast forward. And so we just got into a rhythm really quick. It was divide and conquer. And it worked out great. Well, and if I wanted to, redecorate something, we just put it in the budget and I took care of it. It was, that was the great thing. I never had to ask his opinion.
Yeah.
I had full reign. But fast forward about 20 years and our house flooded. And when I say flooded, from the roof down. We were getting a new roof and a storm came up and there was a tornado. And so the guys had to get off the roof. They were trying to pull these tarps up, but the tarps were blowing so hard they were going to blow off the roof. And so they literally had to quickly get down and it rained into our house for 4 hours.
Oh.
We have a 100-year-old home, which had plaster at the time. And so by the time they called me at work and said, you need to come home right away. By the time I got home, people laughed because I started videoing I had to pick up my son on the way, my youngest son from school. And he and I were walking through with our phones videoing because we'd walk into a room and literally the ceiling would collapse. Because if you don't know, plaster absorbs the water and it gets too heavy and it falls. So we went into that mode that we had been in for 20 years and Mark worked on what he's good at, getting the insurance to cover it and legal battles. And I went into, assessment, calling people, how are we going to, how bad is this? How are we going to do this? And we had to literally take the house down to the studs.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was, again, divide and conquer. There were, again, it's an old home, some legal battles to fight on that end. He took care of that, which is kind of outside, kind of not, but it was his field. And I had to put the house back together. And so had both of us trying to do that, it probably would have been twice as hard because there was a certain budget that we had to work within because of the insurance. But we got it all done and it went fast. And I liked that we'd had 20 years of divide and conquer.
Yeah. I feel like I would be very, I'd split hairs on like what's inside and what's outside. We're like, well, technically the grocery store is outside of the house, so you should do the grocery shopping. Once the groceries are home, I'll put them away.
Yeah. Well, that is how it
rain,
works.
the tornado came from outside of the house, and so this is all your job.
He does do the grocery shopping, and I do put it away.
Oh.
Wow.
So now we didn't always plan that, but again, it's more. He could go to the grocery store, in his time.
Yeah.
And I could, because I was doing so many things with 5 kids and, starting iMom at the time. So.
Sure. So Megan and Chloe, what do you guys do? How do you divide up responsibilities at home with your husbands?
I think for us, it's pretty similar, mainly because it's just we take care of the things that we actually care about. I could care less what the yard looks like. Not my thing. Don't care. Whereas he got these spiked cleats off Amazon to attach to his tennis shoes so that he could aerate the grass. Yeah. And I was like, what? I see him stomping around in the backyard. I'm like, what are you doing?
My dad, fun fact, my dad made a pair of those for himself.
What?
By taking flops, the sports sandals, flops, and putting nails through them.
This does not sound
but
comfortable.
no, well, no, because when you step down,
they
then come back up through his foot, the dull side. But so that didn't work out so well.
No,
but he probably invented them. He just didn't make the money off of it. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's the yards, Hampton's stuff, anything with legal, because he's also an attorney, anything with like insurance. Yeah, I don't handle all that, but like I pretty much take care of anything with the kids' school, with them, with their doctor's appointments, with like groceries, meals. I'm trying to think, laundry. Like that's all my domain. So we've kind of just split it up.
Yeah.
Do you
in
pay the
different
bills
things.
or just he?
Pay the bills?
Yeah.
Neither of them do.
You're on auto. I mean, like I pay the sitters and the nannies and like some school stuff, and he pays like credit card. But I mean, they're on auto pay. I don't think
just
it's
was
like a whole
wondering,
lot of like
I pay all
paying
the
the
bills.
bills. But one thing
Or
we
managing the
have talked
budget.
about is I'm like, what?
Or managing the budget, not necessarily paying the bills, but managing the budget.
Right. Yeah. No, he does the budget. But one thing we've talked about is like, we have so much laundry. I don't understand how two tiny people can create so much laundry.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was like, the other night I was annoyed and I was like, well, you never even help the laundry. And he's like, I've tried. You don't let me. And I'm like, because you do a bad job at it.
That was us. Definitely. He definitely
So
did it the way I
it's
liked.
kind of stuff that I want to control. I do. And I don't really let him help me unless I get really desperate.
So I'm curious, Chloe, I'm curious to hear your answer because I think that Megan, she's like, I handle most of the kids' stuff. So you guys, at least for the next few months, do not have a child to care for. So how do you guys split things up?
I do bills, any sort of like subscription, any sort of like service we need, whether it's like pest control or like anything like that. I handle that stuff. Trent does actually a majority of the cooking and cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just a really good cook, and I don't like to cook.
Yeah.
And he enjoys it. And there are nights where he's like, "Hey, can you cook dinner?" But he actually really enjoys it, and I don't want to take it from him. And then cleaning, I help, but he's a lot better at it than me.
Well, and I think you've both kind of hit on something. Well, everybody, you've hit on something that if it's something that you are good at or you enjoy, it's just natural that you would take that on. Or, Megan, like you said about the laundry, if it's something that you are more acutely aware of, then it really should be yours to do. I'm a clean counter person. I'm a clean floor person. My husband doesn't notice when there's stuff on the floor.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, if it's just going to bother me so much, then this needs to be mine to do, just to keep the peace too.
That makes a good point, because for a while there, when we first got married, Trent was doing more of the bills and stuff like that. And for me, I just like to know all that information. I like to keep the budget. I like to have that. I want to be aware of it all. And we know what each other is doing for the most part, but I don't know. The thing about the laundry, what you just said, Megan, I'm terrified because Trent and I have so much laundry already. Like, Trent has
just two of you.
No, Trent has 3 times as much laundry as
he
I do.
works outside.
I know, but I'm like, bro, come on. Like, it's so much laundry. Like, we do so much of it. I can't.
We have just moved in the past month to every man for himself. My husband has always done his own. So I did my own and the boys, and now the boys, they're not even doing theirs together anymore. I have 2 laundry baskets in their room, so everybody's responsible for their own.
That's
which is
great, though, because they're so young. That's really good.
Yeah. Well, and we were having them do it together, and it was leading to fights about like, come help me fold, come help me with this. And I'm like, you know what? 2 different baskets. You guys can handle it.
You're on your own.
So Pew Research Center in 2019, they asked about household responsibilities. 59% of women said they do more than their husbands. 9% of the women said their husbands do more, and 32% said the responsibilities are shared equally. Now, when the men were asked, 21% say they do more than their wife, 36% said their wife does more, and 42% said the responsibilities are equal. So I know you just heard a lot of numbers,
But the men were pretty fair.
yes, they were. Most men acknowledge that the wives do more. But the number that I thought was kind of interesting is that the shared equally percentage, the women thought 32% said we share equally. The men said 42%, share equally. So like the more men thought that it was a 50-50 kind of arrangement than women.
Yeah, it's like, what do they define as equal?
Right. Well, I think what it is that men don't see all the things that women do. And I think this goes back to our conversation about the invisible load of motherhood in episode 47. Like, I don't think, like, Megan, you talked about stuff for the kids in school. I don't know if a husband necessarily thinks about those things, getting the backpacks put together before school or in the morning, or driving the kids to school. They don't necessarily see that as a household duty. It is just part of being a mom. So maybe that's part of the discrepancy.
I think I wonder too, how many of those couples like was only one person working outside the home. And so, if she did more in the home, it's because, well, maybe that was her full-time job at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just with that note, I think also the pandemic changed that a little bit for us because when I was working from home, I can control like, oh, we need a pest guy to come out. I'm going to call someone. Like I was just telling Abby about, I was calling someone to come out for our pool. Like it's just a little bit easier when I'm at home to figure stuff like that out.
I do think it changes seasonally because for Mark and I now, I've become so busy at work that I'm in meetings all the time.
Yeah.
And he is not in as many meetings. So he'll come home and go, hey, did you call the insurance or somebody about this? I go, no, because I literally
haven't had time.
Went from meeting to meeting to meeting. And he'll take on things like that because he just has more downtime in his day where he can do that.
That's a good point.
So what if there's something that neither person wants to do? Like say neither of you enjoy numbers or neither of you enjoys the yard and you can't afford necessarily to hire somebody to do it. How do you figure out who takes the
Wait, so
hit?
okay, can we go around and say what's that one thing? Like is there
one
some,
thing?
What's
I think most of the things we talked about are things
really?
I don't want to
well,
do.
no, there are some things I don't mind doing. I think laundry is the thing for Trent and I. Both of us don't like laundry.
Mine is the dishwasher. I do not like emptying out the dishwasher.
Okay, yeah.
I also don't like laundry, which is why I've pretty much arranged it where everybody does their own. I'm only responsible for mine.
Yeah.
But no, dishwasher is mine. Megan? Megan does everything.
No,
I'm trying to think. I mean, like I
yours.
said, I could care less about the yard. So like I said, I'd be like, whatever, I don't care. Things I really don't like doing. Everything, every chore.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I don't like any of this
Like,
stuff.
is there one that I enjoy doing? No.
No.
But do I have to? Yes.
Yeah. I'm with you.
So, so what do you do then to figure out who has to just,
It
grin
goes
and
to
bear it?
who's better at it. So, for example, insurance, especially with 5 kids, medical insurance, they reject things all the
Yeah.
time, or you have to.
I hate that.
I am the worst at that. First of all, I don't know if I sound like a little girl or something, but I could call, and he could call, and he would get results, and I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's
I
so
think I
annoying.
sound too nice. I don't want like, hey, we have this problem. And he's just super direct and he's tenacious. And so I flat out said, you're really good at this. You've got to do it because you get better results than I do.
So then what happens if you have your division of labor and he does this and you do that and he is not holding up his end of the bargain?
I so have a story about that.
Because he's not a child, right? It's not like
It
you
is a
can
bone of
punish him.
contention because unlike Megan, I do care about the yard. I've had a rose garden. I have orchids. I care. Now, he doesn't take care of those. And the rose garden went away when I adopted 2 children. It just couldn't happen. But I did design our landscaping when we redid the house. And Mark is frugal about the yard. He doesn't like to water a lot. He doesn't like big bills. And so when I see things getting just the teeniest bit crispy, I want to change the cycle of the watering and everything. And he doesn't want to. And he got things a little, and so I could only nag so much. Mark, things are getting brown. Mark, I think you need water. Mark, and we had these giant, for screening, you know how you create screening so people can't see in your yard?
Yeah.
These giant kind of cypress trees, and they were expensive when I bought them, but it keeps people from being to see it. We have a big backyard, and they got a little crispy, and they died, and it was expensive to replace them, and so here's the other thing: when I see things dying, it's like it must be a nurturing thing in me. It's like when we had lovebirds too. I don't like to see anything not flourishing.
Yeah.
But he likes to push it. And so yes, the yard is a bone of contention for us because Susan likes green, not brown.
life, not death.
Exactly.
So how do you call them out without, if it's your child that is not doing his chores, he gets grounded.
You ground your husband.
Right?
Sorry.
I mean, what do you do to be respectful, but also say, hey, this isn't, because I do think that a lot of women probably have this issue where their husbands are not pulling the weight that they need to pull.
And they end up taking things over from them, and then they
And
own
they
it.
carry too much.
That's a big thing that I've had to work on. Now, Trent does a really good job of like keeping up with his responsibilities, but there have been a couple of things where it's like, I just want to do it because he's not going to. And I've really had to fight the urge to do that because I don't. To reference the Enneagram again, like him being a 9 and me being a 3, I can easily step over him, and I don't want to do that. I don't want that to be our relationship.
We had a crispy situation going on, not because of water. It was because of chinch bugs. And I've lived in Florida almost my whole life. I had to mow the lawn for a time period in between my brothers. I knew it was chinch bugs. I kept telling him, I think the guy spraying our lawn, you need to talk to the guys who are spraying our lawn. And he kept saying, I talked to them, they treated it, they don't think it's chinch bugs. And I kept saying, it's chinch bugs. It's chinch bugs. And I said, Mark, half the lawn, this is going to cost you, the backyard, half the lawn is gone. And I said, I want you to vet it doesn't hurt to get another opinion.
Yeah.
Called another lawn service. It was chinch bugs. We changed service and it cost him. So I've had to let it go.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, if I take it over, it cost him. We had to resod the yard. But, you can't control other adults.
One of my favorite tips that I have learned actually through research and writing for iMom, and it pertains to kids, but I think it's also a good tip for spouses trying to divide and conquer household responsibilities, is to be specialists and create specialists. And that's kind of what you have hinted at, Susan. But we tend to delegate, like as moms, we're like, okay, you're responsible for this tonight or you're responsible for that. Instead of delegating, if you create a specialist, that's basically saying this thing is yours to do from start to finish. And it's great for helping kids grow in responsibility. So like you, son, are the trash specialist. And so that means that you know and watch for when the garbage has to go out. You know the days that the garbage men come to pick up the cans and you take them to the curb. You let me know when we're running out of garbage bags so that it can go on the list. All of this stuff is yours to do from beginning to end. And then as obviously there is a process and you're going to hit some speed bumps, but it eventually becomes a thing where mom can let it go and it's not yours to do anymore. So like if your husband says, I'll be the soccer specialist or I'll be the kids baseball specialist, that means that is everything related to that thing, like equipment, uniforms need to be clean, transportation, registration fees and permission slips, deadlines. And so like just you can let it go. And I'd hope that if he is fully in charge of it and not having you monitoring or micromanaging, it might lead to like a little bit bigger responsibility.
I like that because like in the case of medical insurance and stuff, Mark wants to make sure we get every dollar back and he will fight it to the end. Yeah. I won't. I'll give up.
Yeah. That's so true. Like I just care about certain things more than Trent does.
Well, and that was like kind of leading to my last question. What if you're married to someone who has a different standard for what is cleaned or picked up or a different care level for whatever the topic is,
We had to compromise on that.
Mark, compromise.
Well, when I moved into Mark's house, when we got married, because he already had lived there, I opened the closet door. It was an old house, so a tiny closet. So I was trying to figure out where's my stuff going to go because the closet. I opened his closet, and he, of course, had the master bedroom, which was not a big closet. None of them were. And his shirts were all hung 1 inch apart.
Goodness.
And I took one
look
at it.
That's a serial killer characteristic.
I took one look at it and I said, I'll go find another closet. My stuff is never, because I just know I'm not that particular.
Yeah.
And he was in many things. I give him credit. He let go of his standard because he would come home and I would have been playing with the kids and there was stuff everywhere and he'd get a little rattled and he let go of it because I'd say, "Look, do you want me cleaning up all the time or do you want me playing with the kids? What do you want?"
Yeah.
And he let go. He was good about compromising probably more to my end than I ever went to his side.
It's good.
I think that you have to, like we said earlier, if you care more, then that has to be your thing. My husband really, really cares about a clean shower. And I like a clean shower, of course. But this is something that he picks up on dirt more than I do. And that, for me, it's the floor. And so, like, I have found that my trick is to look up. Like now I tell myself as I'm walking through the house, just look up, Abby, or you're always going to see a little broken smidge of a leaf or a blade of grass that the kids tracked in or a little spot of water. I'm like, just look up. Just look up. Sometimes you got to
This
look
has
away.
just turned into a name your OCD episode.
Exactly.
How much time do we have? All right, give us any tips that you have for a good division of labor in your house. There's a link to email us in the show notes. And if you need a chore chart for couples, we have that link there as well. It is super cute. And remember to tell a friend about the iMom podcast, or tell your husband. You can have him listen to this episode. All right, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the iMom podcast. iMom is the motherhood program of the nonprofit organization Family First. Along with our fatherhood program, All Pro Dad, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the iMom Minute, by going to imom.com/subscribe and get tons of great ideas, insight, and inspiration. The iMom podcast is hosted by me, Abby Watts, along with Susan Merrill, Megan Tigner, and Chloe Blumenthal.